People all perceive the world differently. While some see a reason to grow and build, others see only emptiness and despair. I guess when you experience everything that life has to offer, and watch your loved ones and friends die, while you keep living, it is not surprising that some will turn to such a dark view of everything. In 1995, my great uncle owned a decent logging company in the northern Rockies. Nothing too big, just enough to get by. My uncle worked 6 to 7 days a week just to keep his company afloat. But sometimes that wasn't enough. It was nearing late fall when his company ran into major trouble. His equipment was no longer efficient enough to keep his employees working as much as he needed. With the lack of work, many people quit until it was just him and 3 others. The employees that remained only did so out of sheer loyalty. This caused my uncle to become very desperate and search every avenue that may be available to him for aid. Eventually, he did. He met with a couple who seemed decently wealthy and agreed to enter into a partnership with them just to save his dying company. After a week or so of negotiations, they finally struck a deal. I won't go into the boring details of the contract, however. It was a deal that should have been avoided at all costs. Soon after they finished the negotiations, work with the new equipment started in earnest. Many of the former employees returned for a while, now that the company was flourishing. That, however, would not last very long. Shortly after Valentine's Day, 1956, things within the company started going horribly wrong. Within a week of each other, 3 crewmen quit, stating that they didn't feel comfortable out in the logging areas anymore. One even went as far as saying, "It's like something is watching us and waiting." My uncle just laughed at them. "It's just nerves. Money ain't gonna stop you if you want to go." Unknowingly to everyone, these men made a good choice in leaving when they did. My uncle arrived at work one day, shortly before his crew was supposed to show up, to start a pot of coffee for them like he did every day. After he started the pot of coffee, he noticed a disgusting smell coming from the back office. Curiously, he slowly walked into the small, dimly lit back room. He pushed the door open, and it creaked with a small squeak, revealing one of his crew members lying on the floor, with his head laying a few feet away. My uncle was mortified by the scene before him, to the point of nearly passing out. Coming to his senses, however, he quickly called the police. 30 minutes later, the authorities arrived. The police officer who came asked my uncle what had transpired, to which my uncle started rambling about everything that had happened before he discovered his employee's corpse, and how he didn't understand how someone could commit such a monstrous act. The officer tried to calm him. However, my uncle was just too distraught. After a few moments of trying to console him, the officer proceeded into the small building. Taking a look around, he saw blood splattered on the floor of the back room, which my uncle had left open. The officer felt horrified by the sight that he now had the displeasure of witnessing, but he had work to do. Slowly, the officer cased the room, looking for more evidence of what had happened. Besides what blood pooled around the stub of where the head should have been, he noticed a distinct lack of the viscous red substance. Shortly after viewing the scene, the officer had called in a mortician and another officer to assist him. Many policemen inspected the area, but they had no idea who or what could have done this. After the authorities had concluded their investigation and done what they could, the body was removed. and after about a week, the company could begin work once more. My uncle did not want to have his men come back after this incident, but he had no choice. He had a company to run. A few more weeks of depressing and bitter work, when shortly before the men were going to pack up for the day, they heard eerie, disturbing sounds. The crew decided to investigate these mysterious noises. What they encountered, nobody could have expected. A woman, roughly 5'8", with flowing black hair, in a suit, kneeled over one of the crewmen who had yet to make it back. The others started asking the woman if everything was alright with him. The woman swiftly turned, flesh hanging from her mouth and blood running down her chin. She smiled crookedly and rushed the crew without a word. The men tried to react, but she was too fast, and before they knew it, she ripped out one of their throats with her teeth. Another, she snapped his neck at the base with a quick twist of her hand. The last two men were my uncle and his friend, and their faces twisted in horror, not only at the scene that just played out before them, but with the realization of who this woman was. This woman and her husband were their new partners that had just helped the company. She walked slowly towards them, as if reveling in their terror, before grabbing my uncle's friend by the throat and crushing it in one swift squeeze. The woman turned to my uncle laughing, stuttering. "What the hell is so funny?" he yelled, confused and frightened. The woman just smiled and rushed him, but she did not kill him, she merely tripped him. Quickly, she was on top of him, holding my uncle to the ground. "It's a shame I can't kill you too," she said smugly, "but someone has to take the blame." She finished while jumping off of him. She then proceeded to grab a knife off of my uncle's friend. My uncle was scrambling to get up when the woman ran on him again, pushing his friend's knife deep into his leg. "Now you can't run away," the woman said with a bit of glee in her voice. Between the shock of the knife wound and the atrocity that was just committed in front of him, my uncle started to lose consciousness. His last sight was of this woman who had once helped him, feasting on the men that were like brothers to him. My uncle awoke to a hospital room where the police had him handcuffed to a bed. People were yelling at him left and right, asking questions about what he did to his crew. He was appalled by the accusation, so he recounted to the officers and everyone else what had happened, but they did not believe him. My uncle laid in that bed for 3 days, with officers and detectives listening to his story, but refusing to understand what had happened. In the end, all the evidence was simply pointing towards him. He cried to anybody who would listen, saying that I am innocent. I did not do this. They were like family to me. But it didn't matter. No one else was there to take the blame. It was only him. About a month and a half later, my uncle was sentenced to life in prison for multiple counts of murder that he did not commit. On my 20th birthday, he sent me a letter that contained his entire recount of what had happened, along with a picture from 1955 with him, his crew, and their 2 new partners. After looking at the picture, my blood ran cold. My stomach dropped. At the bottom of the photo were the words, "Be careful, they're still around." Now looking at the picture more carefully, the couple looked exactly like my mother's new friends. They were supposed to come over tomorrow, and it's been almost 61 years since that picture was taken. If you enjoy these kind of stories, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.